All right, so this video is going to run you through 6 problems fairly quickly on what do we do with the Pythagorean theorem in 6 situations in which I give you integers, solid numbers. And these are the 6 situations your problem could end up with. So, the Pythagorean theorem requires you to square the legs, add them to find the hypotenuse squared, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this case, which ones are the legs? Well, they're the two sides touching the right angle. So this is going to be 3 squared plus 4 squared equals, we're going to change that to an x. So there's your setup there. This is 9 plus 16. 9 plus 16 is 25. What number squared is 25? Or take the square root of 25. You get 5. That is about as easy a problem as you're going to get. You had 2 solid numbers going in. The answer was a solid number. Next situation, we've got 2 solid numbers, but now notice one of the solid numbers is the hypotenuse. So now we're going to be setting this up as, got a little mark there, okay. Now we're going to be setting this up as x squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared, because the legs touch the right angle, so those are these two sides. The 13 is by itself. Doing the math here, now you use a calculator as much as you want. That's what 12 squared and 13 squared is. Now instead of adding together like we did on the last problem, we're going to want to subtract. And we end up with x squared equals 25. Looks familiar. And the square root of 25 is 5. So problem number 1, I gave you 2 legs. The answer came out solid integer. Now I gave you a hypotenuse and a leg. The answer came out nicely as well. Those are the best types of problems. Now they get a little trickier. I give you the 2 legs, and we have to find the hypotenuse. I can tell you right away this will not come out nicely, so let's see how it comes out. So the 2 legs are 2 and 3, so 2 squared plus 3 squared, and that's going to be x squared. So we have 4 plus 9 equals x squared. 13 equals x squared, right? Just add them together. But the square root of 13 is a big decimal, so we don't write it as a big decimal. We just write it as the square root of 13. It's actually less work. That's the answer I want to see, the square root of 13. If you go with the decimal, that's great. You can always get the decimal by plugging that into your calculator. That's how a lot of answer keys are going to look. So 2 solid numbers, but you end up with a radical answer. Notice I kept the 3 and the 2, but now I put the 3 on the hypotenuse. So now we have x squared plus 2 squared equals 3 squared. And now we got the 4 and the 9 on opposite sides. So just like we did before when we had the hypotenuse, we have to subtract. Don't know why I put a 5 there. We subtract 4, and you end up with 5. What's the square root of 5? I don't know, but the answer is, in fact, the square root of 5. So when it doesn't come out nicely, instead of trying to figure out the decimal answer, or if your teacher wants you to find the decimal answer, that's great, but just put the square root of that number. You're done. That's 4 types of problems. I said there were 6. Let's go to the next one. We've got our 2 legs here, so we know to put these together, put the x by itself. 6 squared plus 9 squared equals x squared. 36 plus 81 equals x squared. All right, we put those 2 together, and we get 117. Again, use your calculator. I know I'm doing the arithmetic fast, but that's fine. So you're like, wait a second. I don't know what the square root of 117 is, and you just taught me that the answer is the square root of 117. Pretty good, but you want to be able to break down the radical. Now, when you break down the radical, it means there's a perfect square that goes into here. So let's say you had this list of perfect squares in your head, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared. Which one of these goes evenly into 119? And the answer, 9 goes in evenly. So this could be broken down into radical 9 times radical 13. 9 times 13 is 117. Not entirely obvious. Gave you a hard one here. Square root of 9 is 3. So your final answer for x is 3 radical 13. If you can only get here, pretty good. You come up with a decimal, but this is the most sophisticated answer. So this was a situation where it doesn't come out evenly, but we have a radical to break down. One more. Kept the 9 and the 6, except I moved the 9 to the hypotenuse. So now we should know x squared plus 6 squared equals 9 squared. All these numbers are the same, right? 6 squared is 36, 9 is 81. And we're going to want to subtract the smaller one over. And we got x squared equals, and this comes out to 45. 45 doesn't come out evenly. So our initial thought is, well, it's the square root of 45. Which one of our perfect squares divides into it? So you can take more time to do the work, but it's 9. 9 times 5. Square root of 9, just like before, is 3. So your best answer is 3 radical 5. So here's one where you had to break down the radical, and we used hypotenuse and a, that's it.